The Instructor Podcast with Terry Cook, talking with leaders, innovators, experts and game changers about what drives them.
Welcome to the Instructor Podcast. This is a show that helps you become an even more awesome driving instructor and run a better driving school. As always, I am your mediocre host, Terry Cook. I'm delighted to be here, but even more delighted that you have chosen to listen, because today we are back with another special bonus episode. And we are looking at the recent update to the theory test, which now incorporates ADAS questions. Now, this episode came about as a result of recording with Chris Bensted for my premium membership. We recorded for over an hour on this topic and taking a look at what instructors can do to start getting across the theory in our driving lessons, including looking at the difference between a theory instructor and a driving instructor. So if you want to go and check that out in full, head to theinstructorpodcast.com and you should see a big red button that says Join Premium, and you can click on that or go to the episode description and you'll find a link over there. But for now, let's get stuck into the show. Welcome to the Theory of Everything with Mr. Chris Bensted. How are we doing, Chris?
I'm really good, thank you. Yes, all good.
I'm delighted to have you here. You're my go-to theory guy. And today we're going to be talking about where to start. So as driving instructors, if we want to start bringing the theory into lessons, where can we start with that? But we've got a bit of news beforehand because there's some late breaking news, hot off the press, Chris. What is the hot off the press news?
Well, they've updated the theory revision data bank. So that's the one that all of the apps and websites subscribe to from the DVSA. So they are the revision questions, not the test questions. But it does mean there are likely to be changes going on to test questions as well.
What have they updated them with?
So there have been loads of changes. Some have gone. The one that stood out to me, the cover note one's gone. I haven't fully finished going through the list. I'm working my way through. They've got some of the rubbish rubbish questions out of the way. Some of them they've tweaked answers or tweaked wording, just really, really simply. The ESP question, that it used to say, what does it mean if this light is on? And it was that the ESP system is active. They've changed it to what does it mean if this light comes on briefly, which is more accurate, because actually if it's on, it could be a fault. And I've never quite felt happy with that, because actually the light comes on because of a fault. The fault is you've lost your traction. So it is a fault light, just because it says that the system is active. It's always been a difficult one. So the new wording is a bit better. Now, some of the new wordings I still challenge as being a bit rubbish. So, the world still remains nice and stable and the theory test questions aren't great. But it's definitely taken a step in the right direction. And there are particularly a set of ADAS questions, Advanced Driver Assistance Systems. If you haven't come across it, page 90 in Driving Essential Skills. There's about 4 pages worth of stuff about the tech that's in cars. And I have to be totally honest, I went through the new revision questions and I read some of the answers and I haven't got a clue what it's talking about, because they're not the words that I use. So I did know about the systems, but the way that they're wording them, it's a really techie section. And I think it's going to catch some people out, especially the ones that are not either technically minded or don't work well with the comprehension and the language.
So something I've been chatting about for a little while is the ADAS website. I can't remember what it is now, but I'll put the link in the episode description. And, people can go and check that out. But in fact, just before we come on to that, I want to just mention, because you explained the acronym of ADAS, you mentioned ESP. So what's the acronym for ESP? Or what does that acronym stand for?
It's not extrasensory perception, which is the only way that I remember what the letters are, because it's also ESC. So some cars are ESP, some cars are ESC. And this is the biggest issue with all of this stuff, that if you haven't got a Toyota or a BMW, I believe, then the night vision stuff is called something totally different. So, it's not very generic. Some of the titles are a little bit car specific, and it happens to be which one have we chosen to name it after. So ESP is basically its traction control, if you want to simplify it. And it's electronic stability program or electronic stability control. But it's one of those things where it's like the group of systems that includes the ABS. So anti-lock braking system, before you pull me up on that one. Although the other day I came across a lovely thing about ABS, which was, if people are struggling to remember what it is, allows braking and steering, ABS, which I just thought that's a better title than the one that we've got, where everyone goes, shouldn't it be ALBS, anti-lock braking system?
I remember back on my part 3, so it was the old style part 3, and I was teaching the emergency stop, and I had to sort of explain what the emergency stop was, and I explained anti-lock braking system was anti-braking system, and she mentioned afterwards, I really liked your description of it, but you need to just make sure you get that wording quite right, because it doesn't stop you braking. Like, oh yeah, good point. No, it's interesting though, because if you'd have said ESC, I think I would have known what you meant, but by ESP, that lost me. I'm thinking of like paranormal stuff with that.
Yes.
But either way, with ADAS, then, have you got any examples of the questions?
Yes, I have the revision questions on here because I'm desperately trying to memorize them all. So, you are driving along a quiet motorway. Which advanced driver assistance system is most likely to help you? The options are traffic jam assist, automotive night vision, intelligent speed assist, and lane departure warning. Now, I think that's questionable because if it's nighttime, then automotive night vision sounds like it could be a good thing. If you want to make sure you're not going over 70, intelligent speed assist can be a good thing. And I think the important thing about this question is the first sentence, and it's so often the case. You are driving along a quiet motorway, so there's not lots of traffic, and it's specifically talking about a motorway, so it's pushing you towards that lane departure warning. I'm not convinced it's a brilliantly written question.
I don't think it is, because one of the things I've learned from you over the years is that unless the question has an addition to it, it's normal situation. So because it's not saying nighttime, normal, but nighttime isn't abnormal.
Yes.
So if I did most of my driving on a night, and I appreciate this is for learners, but if they were going to do most of driving on a night, or if they'd been learning through winter and having lessons at 6 p.m. and all driving in the dark, then that normal to them is driving in the dark.
Yeah.
So,
sorry, I've just done a session with a Welsh resident, and she's really confused because streetlights mean 20. So, I had to say, well, sorry, we removed Wales from the equation, and we just talk about, our normal, and that Wales is abnormal. I love Wales. I love all the Welsh people. Sorry. I don't mean any offence. But it is, it's that thing, isn't it? It depends on your normal and how that works. So, yeah, don't add anything to the question, but equally don't take away from it. So if the words are there, that sentence about it being a quiet motorway, that's there for a reason, because they've had to kind of push you away from something that you might otherwise pick.
To clarify, that would be a lane departure warning for that question. I'm guessing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What was the first one? Traffic jam? What?
Traffic jam assist, which instantly gets jam on toast in my head.
That's not an actual thing, right? Traffic jam makes it. It is. Where's that from?
So traffic jam assist, if you think about the adaptive cruise control, if the cars in front of you stop, it will slow you down and stop. And then when they move forwards, it will move forwards. Traffic jam assist is a totally automated system for when you're in a traffic jam. So it will creep forwards and then stop as the traffic does. It will keep you in the lane. So it's using the lane keep assist, and it's using the radar and LiDAR stuff to track that car in front. If you think about it, when motorways come to a stop because of an instant up ahead, how often do we see it where some muppet in the queue drives into the back of the person in front of them because they're not paying enough attention? And that causes an additional knock-on delay for other people and quite high risk because there ends up being a lot going on in a small space. So, yeah, it's a really good system. It could do with a better title possibly, but it is specifically for those traffic jams, and it basically keeps you going until the point at which everything starts moving off and then you take over again.
I actually disagree on that. I really like the title for it. I just didn't think it was a thing. I genuinely have never heard of that. And I'm slightly surprised. I'm usually relatively well up on that stuff. But I mean, that's a brilliant piece of tech. I've got this year, I need to swap my car out. So I might ask for one specifically with traffic jam assist in it. All right. So that's one. Have you got another one for us? We won't go through all of them because I know you've got them all, but give us another one.
Modern cars are often fitted with a variety of technologies called advanced driver assistance systems. Interestingly, they're not using ADAS as a set of letters, which on everything else they have done. What is the main purpose of these systems? To make the roads safer, to reduce journey times, to make driving easier, to reduce environmental pollution?
That's a good question because main purpose, I would probably go for safety, but I think they all apply.
Yeah, and this is why I'm slightly unhappy with the wording on these because so the first three pupils that I did this with, they went, well, it makes driving easier because it gives me less traffic jam assist. That makes driving easier, and easier is safer. Generally speaking, there's less to go wrong. There's less for me to do. It's doing some of the job, reducing the risk for me. So I don't think to make driving easier is wrong because I think that is part of making it safer. And also to reduce environmental pollution. That lots of those systems that are in place of cruise controls and such are also going to benefit pollution. So, I think the easier and the road safety one are, we expect it to be road safety, but that we're in the arena of road safety. I'm not. So far, the evidence shows my pupils don't see it that way.
That environmental one, I can see a lot of students getting caught up on that because you think about how much of in the theories now is directed towards the environment and that being an answer to a lot of the questions. I could be massively wrong on this. Can't think of a question where an option, let alone an answer, has been road safety.
Interestingly, the one that is road safety is about planning better ahead. So eco-safe driving. What is the outcome of eco-safe driving? Improved road safety. And that confuses people anyway. So it's this, it's almost showing the flip side of it as a benefit as well. So that it makes it worth us doing whatever your trigger points are, whether you care about the environment or whether you care about getting there quicker or whether you care about, road safety and not crashing. The one action will help all of those things. But that's a bit confusing, especially when some of those things become the wrong answers. It's a bit like the alcohol questions where it says, what can happen if you've been drinking and then drive? That, it improves your confidence. Well, instructors are regularly trying to tell their improve pupils' confidence. So maybe we should tell them to go and have a drink. It's really a confusing message. And I think in isolation, all right, that makes sense. But actually, when you look at them alongside other questions that are also in there, there's almost a contradiction if you don't have the level of understanding that you need. And we know that understanding isn't necessary for the theory test. It's learned by rote. It's go through the questions until you know the answers.
I mean, I think it's good that they brought this ADAS into the theory, but I don't like the wording of those questions. It seems to be making more confusing questions, and we need less confusing questions. So, so obviously the instructors listening now, how would you suggest that instructors pass this information on to their students?
So what I would just add to that is anyone who's using a language modifier, I would not expect them to allow rewording of these questions because they are technical wordings. and it's the technical wordings of the issue, and they're the things that they're not allowed to reword. So I think on lots of levels, people are going to struggle. So first thing to do is to grab your up-to-date copy of Driving Essential Skills, which is the one with the guy on the front, not the lady with, I think she had red hair, which is the previous one, because this is the copy that's got ADAS in. It's the copy that came out in, I think it came out in 2023, definitely 2024. And go to page 90, which has the section on Advanced Driver Assistance Systems. And there are 5 pages, nearly 5 pages, about ADAS in there. That is the stuff you need to know to pass on to them for their theory test, because it might be that your car hasn't got any of it. So if you want your basic set of knowledge and skills, it'll be those. I'd also recommend the ADAS website that you mentioned earlier, because I think it's got some great stuff on there, really useful tools. But some people will find that's a bit much. Have a chat with other instructors about their cars, and if you get a chance, have a look. Find the cars that don't have the blind spot detection. Find the cars that have blind spot detection if yours hasn't, and go along and see it in action, because that will help. Maybe video it so you can show your pupils, even though you haven't got it. If you come across a car that's got it, take a quick video of it, and then you can make use of that. And as soon as I get my head around all of this and get the right things in place and the editing done, check out my social media on Theory Test Explained, because I'm going to put videos about all these different things up there. Some of it I've got to go and hunt cars down that have got the tech in place. So it's going to be making use of those. As always, educate yourself so that then you can pass that on to other people, because it's what we do.
Do you know what? I think that asking other instructors what their cars have is great, because even just to this conversation, I never heard of that traffic jam assist before. I'm excited by that. That's pretty impressive. But the other thing I would say is just making sure that you're really encouraging your students to use the ADAS that's available in your car and playing with that. And even if you can't use it, I suppose we could do this, but it's not advisable using the emergency stop assist in my car. I'm going to encourage students to brake rather than test it and see if it works. But do you know what? Someone said this to me recently, and I can't remember who it was, but I didn't expect it to happen to me so soon. And that was when I was talking through the e-call button, someone pressed it in the car, and I think it started counting from 3. It's like, we'll connect you in 3, 2, no, cancel. So now I've changed the way I word that to, don't press this, but what do you reckon that button does? Rather than, what does that button do? And they go, I don't know. You've always said I can press stuff to find out. So yes, I think that just making sure you're doing that, and go onto that ADAS website and see what's on there, as you've said, so that then even if your car doesn't have it, you can run through that with your students.
Yeah, and label one of the buttons in the car ejector seat and see how many people press it before they ask you what it does. That always proves the point. But no, absolutely, upskill. Make sure you got all that information in place. And if there's anything that you notice isn't out there, let me know, and I'll add it to the catalogue, because it's new tech. It's only going to get more and more important as we go along.
And at the moment, this is on the revision questions. Is it on the actual test questions?
Very good question, because they won't tell me. The answer is, if it's in the books, we can put it in the test. The important thing to remember, the revision question department is the publication team. The test engine department is the test engine team, and they don't talk to each other. I'm hoping that's changed. Maybe with some changes happening, maybe something has changed. So they don't always join the dots. It might be that some of those questions have already come through. All we know for certain is that those revision questions have changed. They don't tend to, just working historically, they don't tend to change the revision questions and immediately put a new bank of questions in there. They tend to bring them out, and then slightly further, a few weeks down the line, you start seeing them coming through. The only thing we've really got to compare it to recently is the Highway Code H1 changes about, giving way to pedestrians crossing side roads, and the trailer questions when they got rid of the trailer test, and covered themselves by saying take professional training in the theory questions. Yes, I'm cynical. But those kind of things, that's all we've got to base it on. So the biggest thing is if you get a pupil who has had a question that they raise with you and go, I've never seen this before, please get in touch with me and let me know. This is an ongoing request. Anything that comes up, either I will have experienced it and I can tell you what that question was, or I can start piecing it together. And I have a really good dialogue with people like Annie Winterburn from Theory Test Practice, where when we get little nuggets of stuff, we all put it together. We work together to kind of figure out what it means. The most recent of those that was a real issue was the end of dual carriageway sign. And it said, when you see this sign, what is the speed limit? Again, it's slightly questionable. I can hear lots of driving instructors sucking through their teeth and disagreeing, but this was their question. We never know quite the wording either, so there might be, clarification in there. But it's quite a clever question because you've got, what is this sign? You need to know it's the end of dual carriageway sign. Then you need to know that the speed limit will change because the national speed limit will then, and it will have specified it's a national speed limit dual carriageway. Absolutely certain that's in there. So the fact it goes from 70 to 60 and that's what it means, it's a really nice question. But when something new comes in like that and people are confused, we're busy piecing together little bits of information to figure out what we think the question would be. And then, we tell people, they go and do the test, get it, and they come back and say, yes, you were spot on, and that's great.
My question of, will these be in the actual test? The answer is possibly.
The ADAS will be in there. I've been saying that since last year. Yeah.
It's not at the minute.
Not that I'm aware of.
Sorry, just wanted to make sure we got that. But the one other thing you mentioned that I think that people may not be aware of or may not quite clicked with is you mentioned a language modifier and how they may not be able to rephrase that question. What's a language modifier?
So originally an OLM, oral language modifier, and now being referred to as a language modifier. So if you get them referred to, they're the same thing. I don't know why it's changed, but it has. The language modifier is someone who can rephrase questions. They're difficult to get. You need a certain level of documented additional needs to get hold of a language modifier. So if we go one step down, you get a reader recorder. They can read the question, read the answers, and then they can record it for you. They can only say what's on the screen. The language modifier is allowed to interpret things if they know that there's something that people don't understand. They've also got diagrams. They've got a whiteboard. They're allowed to look through the questions before they go into the test, the language modifier, not the candidate, so they know what's coming, which also helps them not give away the game on the next question by mistake, which is why they get to do it. But, they're prepped quite well for what's coming up. They can also, to some extent, listen to what the candidate is saying. So if you get them to do some sort of spoken thought stuff, so they're saying their thought process out loud, they can go, what you're saying is this. Although it's not their words, that's the message that's coming across. So can be incredibly helpful, very beneficial for autistic pupils who struggle with the use of language on the test and the subtleties of it. And so anyone who has that comprehension issue with the wording, it can help. But they're not allowed to rephrase technical questions. The example that always gets given is catalytic converter, which is, it's a technical phrase, so they just have to say catalytic converter. They can't say what it is.
Or does one get a language modifier?
To get any assistance, you basically book a test. So you go on, you book a test, and it says, do you need additional help? It then says, are you sure you need additional help? Because it's trying to put you off. Anybody can get the voiceover. And the thing to remember about the voiceover is it's in lots of different voices, so it changes between questions. And you can also have the BSL video on the screen if you need British Sign Language. So those two things are available to anyone. After that, you then start requesting help. And you have to send documentation through to the DBSA. Language modifier is not on the list. Slightly sneaky in my opinion, but language modifier is not on the list, but you can request other and you can list it at the bottom. You send your evidence through. wait potentially for a good few weeks for them to look at it and decide, and then they will say, yes, you've been given this level of help. And that can be extra time, a reader recorder, someone doing BSL in person. The thing to remember about British Sign Language is it has regional dialect. So very few BSL individuals will like the videos. They'll be much better with someone actually speaking to them in British Sign Language. And then the language modifier as well. And when you've got that additional help, well, you can just ask for a separate room on its own, but with the reader recorder and the language modifier, they come with a separate room.
If someone wanted to find out a bit more about ADAS and how it interacts with the theory, where might they go to find that, Chris?
So I've got a set of videos already because I saw it coming. So if you go to my social media on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, because the Instagram shares to there, you will find a catalogue of ADAS, basic ADAS systems. Now going to go through, now that we know the specifics, and include things like traffic jam assist, because I didn't speak about that one before. So I'm going to go through and add to those. So point them to Theory Test Explained on Instagram or TikTok, and then they can watch those videos. And I'm sure there'll be lots more stuff coming through from people as we realise how important this is. And I already know some instructors from a practical perspective are going to start looking at ADAS a bit more because it's now coming up.
So check out Theory Test Explained for all your theory goodness. But we are going to disappear now for the public viewers or listeners, and we're going to keep talking for the premium members because we're going to dig into a little bit about where instructors can start. So big thank you to Chris for joining me on this recording. To get the full recording of this and access to well over 200 hours of additional bonus content, you can sign up to the Instructor Podcast Premium membership. We've currently got a special offer on that runs throughout March where you can get a 60% discount. All you need to do is sign up with the code MARCH60. That's MARCH60. Best way to do that is either to head to the website www.theinstructorpodcast.com, where you should see a big red button to join up to Instructor Podcast Premium, or head to the show description where you can find a direct link to take you. We've also just put out a public video over there that tells you exactly what's in the premium membership. So you don't need to be a member to watch that. You can go and check it out to see if it's right for you. And if it is, great. I look forward to seeing you there. And if it isn't, that's completely fine as well. But for now, let's just keep raising standards.
The Instructor Podcast with Terry Cook, talking with leaders, innovators, experts and game changers about what drives them.